Hello, Internet. I pretty much wasn't going to record this, but since I'm here, and I seem to recall last year's The Rising video was quite entertaining and took me on a trip down memory lane, I thought, well, it being 11 minutes past 2 in the morning, and me just saying, you know what, I'll do this now while I think about it, I figured, well, I may as well fire up the old OBS to record it as well. This might not even make it to the internet, I don't know. The quest is called The Art of Glass. The centrepiece of this year's Rising festivities is a work of art, courtesy of Demajen, who hopes to foster goodwill amongst the citizens of UL'DAH. Hello there. Would I be correct in assuming you've come to view my exhibition? Yes. You see, I'm an artist by trade, and my chosen medium is stained glass. Well, it's not the easiest thing to work with, the results are worth the considerable effort required. It's taken me a while to reach this point in my career, and this is actually my first public showing. I was wondering, if it's not too much of a bother, if I might give you a brief explanation of the subject matter? Nod. Ahem. Then pray, my good lady, cast your eyes at yonder panel. It was the final days before the fall of Dalamud, its inexorable approach foretelling our impending doom. Panic spread like wildfire, with many in their desperation turned on the Sultanates. While many in their desperation turned on the Sultanates, looting and rioting broke out across UL'DAH. To quell the masses, Her Royal Majesty Nanamo Ulnamo took to the streets with a guard consisting of only 7 subjects. They alone had the courage to stand with their Sultana. There, she addressed the rabble. Heed me, my beloved citizens. The realm lies upon the brink of the 7th Umbral Era. Yet so long as we live, we must not forget our compassion. Now is not the time to take from your neighbour, but to proffer him the hand of succour. She was determined not to let the city that the immortal flames were risking their lives to defend tear itself apart in their absence. Her words brought the people to their senses. They laid down their arms and set about healing the wounds they themselves had inflicted on UL'DAH. Thanks to Her Majesty's impassioned speech, those who returned from the battlefield found the home much as they had left it, a gleaming jewel in the deserts. It all seems so long ago. To see the place today, you'd think that the people had entirely forgotten her words that day. The same hands that were once proffered in succour now grasp greedily at every last coin, even if it means one's fellow man must go hungry. It's times like these that we must remind ourselves of the sacrifices of those who came before us, which is why the Rising Festival is of such profound importance. I draw inspiration from Her Majesty's deeds all those years ago, and through my work, perhaps others might do the same. Dear me, I'd better stop before I'm overcome with emotion. There are in fact matters to which I must attend, and if I'm not mistaken, you are an adventurer, yes? Or something you might be able to help me with, if you're willing. In addition to having my stained glass on display, it's been arranged that a wandering minstrel give a recital as part of the festivities. I'm looking to gather as many spectators as possible, but I fear I'll struggle to cover the necessary ground by myself. Perhaps you could give me a hand? Of course. 12, bless you, madam. I plan to hand out these flyers, and with 2 of us, we'll be able to reach twice the number of people in the same span of time. Of course. I wonder who this wandering minstrel could be. If you'd be so kind as to look for potential attendees around the steps of THAL, I'll head for the Sapphire Avenue Exchange. Let's meet there when you're done. There was a person behind us who looks an awful lot That's the 1.0 Minfilia. isn't it? The mining gear, the pink top. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that's 1.0 Minfilia. What are you selling this year, Mini? Not yet open for business. No, you've got to do the quests first. Right, come Dulia. Let's actually switch over to... No, not Dark Knight. Over to Paladin, since we can actually... Ew, what am I wearing? Oh, I'm the Knight of Verbet, aren't I? Right, let's head over and hand out these flyers. I love how solemn and almost out of place the Rising music is. You know, we're so many years on. 7 years on now, isn't it? Isn't this the 7th Rising? After 7 years, you'd think I'd have more playtime. Actually, is my playtime on this character. 119 days, 0 hours, 35 minutes. Mind you, this isn't my only character, so... Eminently approachable citizen. May I help you? Have this flyer. Considering that it is designed to advertise an art exhibition, this flyer strangely does not include any illustrations. Perhaps Juventir was unwilling to compromise his artistic vision by working with such humdrum materials as paper. Stained glass? Depicting the Sultana herself, no less. I've always been a loyal supporter of hers, and it would be remiss of me to pass up such an opportunity. I shall be sure to attend. You do that. Man, there's so much stuff in this game that I just haven't done. Got something you want digging up? Heh. Can't say I'm much of an expert when it comes to music and fine art, but it ain't often a bloke like me gets a chance to sample the high life. I'd be a fool to miss it. Noticeably dusty, citizen. Obviously affluent citizen. Yes. That does sound rather intriguing. If it's the same minstrel my associates have mentioned on occasion, I'd best go and see what all the fuss is about. I hear he's rather talented. As long as he's not getting himself caught in rooms full of bugs. I wonder what he has to say for himself this year. Wasn't it last year where we had like 6 different versions of us? Or something? What are you two doing here? Huh. All done. Much appreciated, but I'm afraid I've run into a bit of a problem. I was in the process of handing a flyer to this gentleman when my friend Aston showed up out of the blue. As chance would have it, these two chaps are previously acquainted, though they do not appear to be on particularly good terms. But am I supposed to pay you back if the amount keeps going up? If you coughed up the money on the day we'd originally agreed, there wouldn't be so much interest to pay. You've only got yourself to blame. But Astin, if your interest rates weren't so high, perhaps he'd have been able to pay you back by now. I'm not saying you should wipe the slate clean, but surely you can come to a compromise. All I want for him is to honour our agreement. What's wrong with that? Besides, I've held up my side of the bargain, so why do I have to be the one to compromise? But let's say I give you the benefit of the doubt that you genuinely lack the means to pay me back. I'll grant you 1 week's extension. But if you still don't have the money by then, there'll be consequences. It's a nice outfit he's got. Only a week. Alright, you damn vulture, you'll get your gill. And I'll be rid of you for good. I'm sad to say that such incidents are part of everyday life in UL'DAH. Someone in financial difficulty sees a moneylender as the answer to their woes, like an oasis in the desert. But it's only a mirage, an illusion of salvation, leading them into even greater debt. And again, many debtors will borrow money without any intention of paying it back, relying on an endless stream of short-term solutions. I hope that those who look upon my art will remember the words of the Sultana and seek to help, rather than exploit one another. Those two chaps you saw arguing just now would benefit from it, I'm sure. You know, Aston wasn't always like that. He's picked me up when I was down more times than I can count. We both grew up on the streets of UL'DAH with no one to turn to but each other. The only reason I'm here today, making a living as an artist of all things, is because of Aston and his talent for business. With a few words and a couple of handshakes, he could turn a gill into a gold mine. But as the years passed, it became an obsession. No matter how much coin he made, it was never enough. I wish he'd realised there's more to life than personal gain, but nothing I say gets through to him. That's part of the reason why I turned to stained glass art in the first place. It could express my inner thoughts far better than words ever could. Well, my words, at any rate. I don't know, seems pretty good for... Oh, goodness, I do apologise. You must think I'm an awful bore to rope you into helping only to bombard you with complaints and sub-stories. Yeah, as if we're not used to that. But enough of that. It's high time I returned to the exhibition and prepared for the arrival of that minstrel. Uh-oh, a distraught youth? Oops. If we'd known this would happen, we'd have never gone near it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There you are. I hate to say this, but we've run into a slight problem. And by slight problem, I actually mean rather a huge catastrophe. So huge, in fact, I need a moment to compose myself. While I'm loath to impose on you any further, I have a feeling I may need your help again. Or at least some moral supports. Yeah, it looks like the kids have broken the stained glass. Point of Ardbert? What he lacks in size, he makes up for in heart and his disproportionately large axe. A faithful recreation of the stained glass artwork that adorn the main stage of UL'DAH's Rising Festival. The historic moment when Nanamo Ulnamo and his 7 most trusted followers confronted a baying crowd and restored peace to the city is captured in all its glory. For aesthetic reasons, however, the artist has wisely chosen not to include the angry mob. Ventier's heart is not the only thing that is broken. Right. Enough panicking. It's time for decisive action. While we were out distributing flyers, these children were a little overzealous when it came to admiring my artwork. It seems they were unaware of the don't touch rule that normally applies to these things, and, well, it fell on the floor and shattered. Wow, no. Oh, actually, none of these options are good. This calls for 6 of the best. Really? I'm not choosing that. Not the first thought that crossed my mind, I must admit. The recital is due to begin any moment now, so the only viable option is to repair the smashed pane as best we can. I think that with a little adhesive here and there, the spectators will hardly notice the cracks. Unfortunately, I don't have any to hand at present. Well, I would have to fetch some bonding agent for the Alchemist Guild. Perhaps you could try piecing the broken glass back together? Uh-oh, is this going to be a mini-game? Don't worry, I'll show you how it's done. Are you ready to begin? I guess? The following controls can be used to repair the stained glass. Okay, so move the cursor, select the piece. Is this a slide puzzle? Oh, no, it is not. Oh. Right. Do I have to... Yeah, I guess I have to... to line things up. Although not particularly exactly, it has to be said. This needs to go. There we go. Yes. 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 Uh-huh. Yes. Goes up there. In the middle. The sides. Corner. Yeah, there. Almost. Ah! Complete. You're still here. Yes, that's perfect. With a few dabs of adhesive, it'll be as good as new. Well, almost. It should certainly suffice for the time being, though. Yeah, you can't see the cracks. All's well that ends well, yes? The children were beside themselves with worry, but now they're as delighted as I am. Don't touch it again. Look, don't touch, yes. Something that was once broken, made whole once more. Almost like a realm reborn. Oh, just a moment of nostalgia. I know from first-hand experience that moment of horror that comes when breaking an expensive piece of glass. A few years ago, I was helping Aston with one of his ventures as an art dealer. I was in desperate need of gear, so he hired me to transport a few pieces. That was when I dropped a case containing some valuable stained glass, and I'll never forget the awful sound it made. But rather than curse me for my clumsiness or fret over the money it had cost him, his only concern was whether I'd cut myself on any of the shards. So you see, that's why I don't blame the children for their little misadventure. I suppose I'm following Aston's example. Actually, there's one more favour I'd like to ask of you. I think if Aston were to see my stained glass, it might remind him of the days when there were things more important to him than money. Of course, I've tried various approaches in the past, and most of what I say to him goes in one ear and out the other, but if it were to come from someone else, such as your good self, he might be more inclined to listen. Would you mind having a word with him? Of course. You're too kind. I know. Perhaps you could start by handing him this flyer and going from there? I expect he's in the quicksand, where he carries out much of his business. His clients tend to be a bit more malleable when they're in their cups, it seems. Anyway, if you could rouse his interest in the festivities, we'll leave the rest to him. Oh, it's the near gear that guy's wearing. Oh. Momozigo. I remember you. Ben's assistant, yes, or maybe he's yours. Either way, I appreciate you looking out for him. He needs all the help he can get. Though I must say, if you're something that requires my attention, I'd rather you kept it brief. Yes, I know all about Ben's exhibit, thank you. Keeping my ear to the ground as I do, there's little that goes on in UL'DAH that escapes my notice. So, why did he send you to advertise it to me? He wants to remind me of the good old days. I'd have guessed it would be something as soppy as that. A lot's changed since then, but he's still the same daft sod he's always been. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, mind you. It's his sentimental side that allows him to create such evocative works of art. But I always felt that if he tried to make a living out of it, he'd lose the very essence of what makes his pieces so special in the first place. Rather than expressing himself, he'd have to pander to the tastes of wealthy but fickle clients to turn a profit. That's why I wanted to earn enough for the both of us, so he'd be free to pursue his dreams. While he doesn't need me to pay for his bed and board anymore, I'm still around to help him if he falls on hard times. And just to make it perfectly clear, it's not that I don't want to attend the exhibition. I decided not to go because if people were to think that Ben is associated with a moneylender like me, it would ruin his good reputation. But if he insists that I go, perhaps I can make an appearance without drawing too much attention. Tell him I'll think about it, would you? Interesting. So he's doing arguably the wrong thing for the right reasons. So, what did he say? Huh. I'll just have to wait and see. Whatever the outcome, I'm very grateful for all you've done, and I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear I've saved you the perfect spot from which to view the event. Where's that? On the stage? Oh, look who it is! That's a shock! And this is where things tend to go a bit weird. Citizens of UL'DAH, by my words, be transported to the days before the calamity, a time when all hope was lost, seemed lost. Yes, that. As the lesser moon hung low in the sky, a wave of terror washed over this fair city, turning neighbour against neighbour, brother against brother, and filling the entire city with really high-level monsters that lagged the server out. If you know, you know. There, in the midst of the chaos, she stood defiantly. And so our tale begins. Hearken now to the Sultana's 7. Pan up. Fade to black. Oh, do we not get to hear the story in full? Astonishing. I could see the events of that fateful day in my mind's eye as vividly, as vividly as I see you now. Such a profoundly moving performance would surely have touched the hearts of everyone in attendance. Nod. Astin, you came after all. An artist you may be, but subtle you are not. Now is not the time to take from your neighbour, but to proffer him the hand of succour. A message to all of UL'DAH, I'm sure, but also one meant specifically for me. I have to admit, the Sultana made a good point, and it still stands to this day. Maybe it's time I thought about earning an honest living. I knew you'd come around sooner or later. And Astin, I can take care of myself now, so you needn't go to such lengths to support me. I'm glad to hear it, but let's get one thing straight. I didn't become a moneylender just to cover your expenses while you carved out a career as an artist. I just didn't want you to compromise your ideals and the quality of your work for the sake of keeping a roof over your head. Now you can concentrate on doing what you do best, bringing joy to people through your art. As for me, I should find a better use for my skills. Perhaps I could go back to being an art dealer. That way you can create whatever works you please while I seek out potential buyers. It certainly beats making commission pieces for some pretentious buffoon. You're suggesting we go into business together? Yes, unless you have any objections to working with a very recently reformed moneylender. Well, of course not. And I know just where to start. Producing more paints featuring the Sultana and her 7 trusty followers. Imagine the streets of UL'DAH lined with stained glass depicting its illustrious history. The sparkling jewel of the desert will shine brighter than ever. This is more than I could have dreamed of. Of course, none of this would have been possible without your kindness. That's the second typo we've had in this quest. None of this would have been possible without your kindness, Demajen. You probably hear effusive words of praise quite often in your line of work. Yes. But I sincerely mean it. Thank you for all you've done. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Oh, and there was one other thing I meant to tell you. The Wandering Minstrel was wondering if he could have a word with you. In fact, he has a present of sorts to give you. He should be somewhere nearby. Best of luck finding him. If he's in the same place as he's been the last 4 years. Shocking! He is, of course, in the same place he always is. Fancy seeing you here. Ah, you are come as I knew you would. Dementia speaks very highly of not only your skill at piecing together broken glass, but of your loyalty and compassion. Your virtues are many and varied indeed. Were it not for your contribution, the festival would have been without its centrepiece. My accompaniment of song was naught but a garnish to the fine dish that was our mutual friend's glorious work of art. Perhaps you will allow me to express my gratitude with another piece I have composed. Certainly, whisk me away to a dreamscape with the power of your song. Here we go. Prelude. The ethereal sea. Once more. Oh! Hello, Dalamud. Just put your shield up, it'll be fine. Welcome, Warrior of Light. Or should I call you Warrior of Darkness? You needn't be alarmed by these strange surroundings. You've seen them every year for the last 7 years. Hi, Yoshi-P. Oh no! It's not Yoshi-P this time, it's the 7. Pippin? The Thaumaturges? Thancred? No, wait. This isn't Thancred. Ah, Nanamo! He does love this cosplay. Hello, Yoshida. This is a world that exists outside your reality. Could it be a dream? A flight of fancy conjured by your weary mind? Perhaps. Or perhaps not. It is an honour to be reunited with you in this world between worlds. I've been following your adventures with great interest. Your travels have taken you to lands far and wide, and you have encountered people of all walks of life, each with their own ideals, hopes, and dreams. As time flows onwards in a never-ending spiral, the course of history is guided by mortal hands. Though our existence be brief, our deeds echo for eternity. 7 years have passed since the lesser moon descended. 7 years since mankind rose from the ashes. It was a spectacle none shall ever forget, and that they live to tell the tale is cause for both celebration and reflection. When we cast our minds back, it is not sorrow that fills our hearts, but joy, for we have been afforded a second chance, that we may learn from the lessons of the past. As we set forth towards new horizons, those with a thirst for adventure will lead the way. While there may be hardships and strife on the road ahead, there is no obstacle that we cannot overcome if we believe in ourselves and each other. Countless kindred spirits share our journey, and it is through mutual respect and understanding that we may create a better world. The future is what we make of it, by our words and deeds, and we will forever be at your side, brave adventurer. You have our undying gratitude, now and always. The time has come for this vision to end. Time for your eyes to open from this waking dream. Ever will we be watching over you. Guide the realm into peace and happiness, warrior of light and darkness both. Till next we meet. One. And lo, you are returned. Pray tell, are you left with pleasant memories, fleeting though they may be? Always. That is well, for such visions are wont to fade all too quickly, as the morning dew in the light of the rising sun. Mayhap another of my verses would make a suitable gift ere we part. In the wake of calamity, light descendeth once more, to illuminate a world reborn, risen from fires of war. 'Neath the eyes of heaven, deception crumbles to dust, those divided by malice, united by bonds of trust. On fields awash in crimson, battle raged far and wide. In the name of liberty, the courageous few turn the tide. And to a distant realm, drowned in radiance unrelenting, strides forth the harbinger of night, iron will unbending. That's me! And the fireworks start upon cue. For the sake of their loved ones, there are those who take to the battlefield, and yet those who remain behind have their roles to play. Protectors and the protected, providers and the provided for, principles upon which every nation is built. It is the duty of those who rule to ensure that these elements are kept in balance, even if they must face great peril. Peril? The words of the Sultana ring as true in the here and now as they did on that fateful day. May each of us take them to heart as we face the new dawn as one. Yes. Yes, indeed. And the meteor fireworks. Bam bam. You have unlocked the jigsaw puzzle minigame. Open the toy chest in any in-room to try this activity. Away with you, achievement notification. There is no greater honour than to bring joy to one's art, as our mutual friend is beginning to discover. Indeed. Indeed. A wind-up Ardbert. Where are you, Ardbert? There you are. This mammoth was created to honour Ardbert, the hero who fought to save the first as warrior of light and darkness both. Though he has passed from this world, his spirit lives on in all who ever thought to lend a helping hand to his fellow man. And literally, in you. As brightly as a hero's tale shines, it is not without its shadows. The Wandering Minstrel. Sorry, Delia. Just for a second, I'm going to have to... He cute, as expected. Yeah, the Rising is always an interesting festival because obviously it just marks another passing year. It reminds us that the game is getting on, that, you know, we're all getting older. And especially in the face of 2020, where, let's be honest, things have kind of gone to hell. It's nice to have a little bit of consistency. I'd much rather do something to help make this a brighter place instead of just making its problems even worse. There was some complaints a couple of years ago. Not by many people, just the typical vocal minority that the that the Rising was always a little bit preachy. You know, oh, we should do this to make the world better and so on and so forth. And people did say, oh yeah, it's just a little bit preachy. Never quite understood how a reminder in a game like Final Fantasy especially, that ideas that, you know, we should all try and be better people and be friends and so on and so forth, how that could be a bad thing. But I don't know, people are strange. Right, let's go hang up this this painting. If I could, do I even have anywhere in my apartment to actually hang this? I could take one of the maps down, I suppose. Oh, I could maybe stick it on the wall there. Or over the bath, perhaps. Yeah, my apartment is a real strange place. How do I store? There we go. At some point in real life, I would love to have this kind of writing room. But I'm a long ways off being that kind of rich. So there we go, folks. That was the Rising, the 7th Rising event in Final Fantasy 13? 14. Can you believe it has been 7 years since the relaunch of this game? This makes 10 years. 10 years of Final Fantasy 14 for me. So obviously I alpha tested the 1.0. So I have lots of experience with this one and the considerable improvements that 2.0 made. Obviously this year we've had the success of Shadowbringers. We've just had in patch 5.3 the conclusion to the Shadowbringers storyline. Quite importantly, I think we've had the revamp to A Realm Reborn. It's still not perfect, by all accounts. It's still, in some ways, a little bit clunky and a little bit off-putting to some people, but by all accounts, it is a lot better than it was. They've cut out, what was it, 16% or something of the most irritating quests, the big fetch quests. It's been a good year, as far as I'm concerned. It has cemented for me Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers as the best Final Fantasy story out of any of them. Although I do need to go back and play 1, 2, and 3, and 5 again. Because I've played 4, 6, and all the others reasonably recently. But I haven't played the 1, 2, 3, and 5 for quite some time. And of course, Crystal Chronicles. The remaster has just come out. By all accounts, that's not great. Which is a bit of a shame, but I don't really trust reviews, so I'm going to give it a try at some point for myself. But I've just got too much going on game-wise at the moment. I hope you have enjoyed this this little impromptu trip through the Rising event. As I said, I wasn't planning on recording this at all, but the whim took me. So here we go. Thank you all very much for watching and joining me, and for your continued support with my Final Fantasy XIV endeavours. What have your experiences? What were your experiences before 2.0? Were you in 1.0? What did you think of it? I know 1.23 and 1.23a, if I remember correctly, were actually pretty decent patches. Were you there at the end? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Stay safe out there, folks. Cheerio. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, cheerio.